Last night I was doing some Christmas shopping alone at TJ Maxx. I'm a female 35 and rarely ever go shopping alone, especially in the evening. Usually I have my kids or my husband with me. I'm browsing around aimlessly, kind of just all over the store. I'm not sure what I'm going to get yet. I see this young guy, probably in his early 20s, skinny with glasses. At first I didn't think much of it. I went over to a different spot, and I see him again. He's in the same aisle, picking stuff up to look at and putting it back down. No cart, no nothing. Red flags in my head were not raised yet. Then I see him a third time, in a different area, doing the same thing, but now stopping and texting someone. My senses are starting to perk up a little bit. I'm like, okay, this is weird, but I'm not nervous per se yet, but I am more aware. Then it happens again, and this time I knew something was weird. He's following me all over the store, and there's nothing to buy. So I start kind of zigzagging through the store. I find a coat that I want to try on, and at this point, I was very wary, but I was also thinking I was being ridiculous and paranoid. But I just had the strong sense that it wasn't normal. I went to the dressing room for about 15 minutes, hoping I would lose him. I came out, but I didn't see him for another 20-ish minutes. I was relieved, thinking I was definitely being paranoid, and he probably left. I then went to the checkout, and after almost an hour or so of shopping with a cart full, I was the only one in line. I got to cash out, and I turned around, and this man is immediately behind me in the checkout. He came out of nowhere. He had one item, so cheap, a little decoration. At this point I was full on panicking. The cashier could tell I was being very weird, and was very distracted. At the risk of sounding crazy, I almost didn't say anything, but I told her that I think there's a man following me. She was extremely empathetic and did not seem very surprised. She was like, "I'm so sorry. I'll have someone walk you to your car." I was so thankful for her kindness. The man then checked out with one item and left the store with an older man who I didn't see before. The older man had nothing. He didn't buy anything. The parking lot in the store was a huge dark plaza. I did not want to go outside alone. Something inside of me just told me it was a very, very bad idea. The cashier asked another employee to walk me out. She was younger than I was, but so sweet. I apologized profusely because it was sleeting and cold, and it was raining outside as well. She had no coat on either. She said, "I don't care if it's downpouring. I would still walk you to your car." It was so sweet, really. She walked me all the way to my car, and even waited until I pulled out and drove away. The whole time I was shaking like a leaf. Like I said, I've heard this happen to so many women, but I kind of thought they might be paranoid or exaggerating. This was extremely scary though. The more I think about it, the creepier it gets. He followed me around the entire store, and everywhere I turned, there he was. I have no idea what his deal was, but it was so unsettling. My husband completely freaked out and does not want me to shop alone anymore, and I don't want to really shop alone anymore either. If I had not been paying attention or dismissed my bad feelings, something bad may have happened. As a woman, being aware of our surroundings is so important, and I'm so grateful that I was paying attention that day, because who knows what could have happened. So this happened after work on Christmas Eve. I work a later second shift from 5 p.m. to 1 a.m., or until we're done. I should also mention that while the warehouse is in a nicer area, a couple of blocks down it gets really sketchy at night. We got done at around 2 a.m. My friend and I were the first ones out in the parking lot, and we were just standing there and talking while we were warming up our cars. We were maybe talking for about 5 to 10 minutes, and during that time I saw a small sedan drive by slowly, but at first I didn't think much of it, because it was a little bit icy out, and I figured they were just being cautious. But then I saw it slowly coming back down the road. It came from the west and pulled in the parking lot. It pulled and parked across from us, which was very strange, because it's a welding shop parking lot, and no one is ever there past 10 p.m. besides police doing speed traps. At that point I pointed it out to my friend, and he said he noticed it as well, and thought it was very weird. Then this big dude got out of his car, and walked across the street to where me and my friend were, while the car he got out of drove off. He asked my friend for a smoke, and as he did, I started walking over to my car to start scraping off some of the snow, and so I thought he would hopefully just not talk to me. But as soon as I stepped back out of my car with my wallet in my hand so I could use some of my cars to scrape the windows off, He called over to me. I didn't want to be rude. Even though something felt off about the situation, I just said screw it. There's cameras watching me, and the rest of the workers should be out within a good 10 minutes or so I'll be fine. I'm 6 foot and 180 pounds soaking wet, and this dude was a good bit bigger than me. I'm guessing he was around 6'5" and a solid 260. He was then trying to make small talk with me, just asking me about what I do there, how it sucks we have to work on Christmas Eve, just random crap like that. But I got the feeling he was sizing me up. So even though I have extreme social anxiety and can usually barely even make eye contact with people I know, I remember my grandpa once telling me, if I'm ever in a sketchy situation with someone, to stand tall, chest out a bit, make direct eye contact the entire time. Essentially, do whatever it takes to make you look like you aren't scared or nervous, so you look like you're more trouble than it's worth. I saw him keep on looking down towards my wallet, so I took a small step back so I could make sure I was in view of the cameras. Then he said, "So hey man, do you think you'd give me a ride back to my house? It's just right down the road. I ran out of gas at the store. Need to go back to my house to get my money." Now the grocery store he said he ran out of gas at is about a mile down the road to the east, yet he came from the west. Also, if he needed a ride to his house, why wouldn't he have just gotten one from the person that dropped him off when he came from the direction in the first place? I then remembered reading online somewhere that around the holidays people will do whatever they can to try and get someone to give them a ride, and then they will force them to take them back to their house and rob them. At this point I'm like, screw this. This dude is trying to rob me. So I just walk backwards towards my car, and since I know I have a giant utility knife under my seat, I tell him I'm good, and to please get off our company property. And he was like, "Come on man, it's Christmas Eve," while looking visibly mad. And I said, "That sucks, dude. Get off the property." At this point I'm in my car, and he can see me reaching under the seat and trying to grab something. He then turns and walks away, and disappears in the alley about a block away. I then went over to my friend's car to tell him what had just happened, and he said the dude was trying to get him to give him some money for some smokes, and they tried to get him to give him a ride as well. 2 days later, a picture of the same guy was on our local police department's Facebook page, asking for information on him, because he was wanted in relation to a string of armed robberies that happened during Christmas week. This happened over 20 years ago. I was driving back home with my girlfriend at the time, and it just so happened to be Christmas Eve. My mother's family used to hold a large celebration at my aunt's house in Estacada. This was my girlfriend's first time meeting my extended family, but she had got quite well with them. We spent the majority of the afternoon and the evening talking, playing poker, opening presents, and drinking an assortment of adult beverages. My girlfriend had been quite inebriated by the time we had to leave, and so I'd be driving us home. It was around 11 p.m. or so, and I was driving my girlfriend's car along Highway 211. Now, this stretch of road is surrounded by farms and dense patches of forest, and parts of it were unlit. But nothing to fear. I grew up in this area, so I knew the road like the back of my hand. But both of us were just driving and talking away, just two young lovers making the most of our moment together. There happened to be a portion of the highway that descends down an enormous hill before crossing Deep Creek. Surrounding both sides of the rock was thick forest. There was no lights. The only thing we could see was the area directly in front of our headlights. As I drive down the hill, we cross a bridge, and uphill through more forest. And as soon as the highway starts to flatten out, something sprints across a road, and suddenly I almost hit whatever it was. I slam on the brakes. I then turned to my girlfriend and asked her if she saw something. She confirmed what I had seen, but she couldn't make out what it was. Maybe it was a coyote, as these are fairly common sight in the area. But something just felt off about it. Whatever it was just ran out in front of the car and disappeared into the woods next to the road. Coyotes never really do this. They don't dart out in front of cars. Not like that anyway. So for some reason, I decided to check it out. I turned the car around and switched on the high beams to get a better light in the forest, to which this thing had just vanished in. I step out of the car and I walk towards the woods. I don't see anything, but now it feels like perhaps I made a grave error. My heart is pounding, and the hairs on the back of my neck are standing at full attention. But I still don't see anything unusual in the trees. Suddenly, the car's horn blasts. It's not a beep, beep, beep that you get if I say your driver or passenger wanted you to hurry up and get in the car. No, this was a long, blaring beep. I walked back to the car, and I asked my girlfriend why she leaned on the horn like that. She said nothing. Instead, she pointed to a spot about 50 feet from where I was. I looked over in that direction, and that's when I saw it. Surely, this was the thing that ran in front of our car. It was a man. He was completely naked. His skin was covered in dirt and mud and blood. And in one of his hands, he was holding a damn hatchet. He then looked back at us, and then he smiled and waved to us before turning around and walking back into the forest. Needless to say, we got the hell out of there. Once we were safely driving again, my girlfriend explained what had just happened. While I was trying to look for the man in the area he initially vanished in, he circled back around and came back for another spot in the forest, beyond my car headlights. My girlfriend had seen something out of the corner of her eye, and that's when she saw him. Before she honked the horn, he was walking towards me. His hatchet was raised, as if he was going to strike me. We called the authorities once we safely got back home, but they never found anyone. Or if they did, they didn't tell us. But the officer we spoke to explained his theory. The man was obviously looking to ambush unsuspecting lone travelers, for Lord only knows what reason. We all agreed that my girlfriend's quick thinking saved my life, as it let my potential killer know that I wasn't alone out there. I moved back into the area recently, so I now drive that highway often. No naked hatchet man yet, but I can tell you that I'm definitely extra vigilant now, especially near Deep Creek.